Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back. I'm the Tilted Crown Gourmet. So excited that you're back. My fiance had asked me to make him shepherd's pie. And of course my response was, I've already made you shepherd's pie. And he says, no, you made me deconstructed shepherd's pie. I want the real deal. Oy vey. Anyway, I'm gonna make him shepherd's pie, and that version is coming to you. This is an amazing dish with wonderful tender meat, vegetables that are cooked to perfection, topped with the most amazing mashed potatoes that you can imagine. So if you're ready, let's roll up those sleeves, let's get some prep done, and let's get cooking. Our first step is to go ahead and make our potatoes for our mashed potato crust. These are russet potatoes, and I just peeled them. I'm gonna put them into the water. I'm gonna be cooking these for about 30 to 40 minutes, or until when I test them, it's easy to insert my knife. While our potatoes are on, go ahead and preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 220 degrees Celsius. Let's start to prep our veggies. I'm gonna start with my garlic. Now, you could run this through a garlic press if you wanted to, but I like it not to be as fine as when you run it through a garlic press. And always remember, if you wanna use more garlic or less garlic, or don't wanna use garlic at all, that's fine. That done, and we're just gonna set this aside until we need it later. Let's continue with our carrots. Again, this is your choice. I like to get my carrots, and I want them to be on the smaller side, so I like mine like this. Now that our potatoes are starting to boil, I am going to reduce the heat so it doesn't boil over, and I'm gonna set it on a lid slightly askew. Set my timer for 30 minutes. I'm gonna come back and check on them in 30 minutes to see if they're tender. If not, I'll leave them in for another 10. Next, let's go ahead and do our celery. I'm gonna cut off the leaf end. Now, I am not throwing these away. As I've told you before, save all of this stuff and put it in the freezer. All your scraps. It makes fantastic stock later on. Now it's time for our fennel. I had a relatively small bulb of fennel, so I'm using the entire bulb. But if you have a larger bulb, then definitely follow the instructions that I'm leaving in the description as far as the amount. This was so close to the amount that I needed, I just went ahead and used the entire bulb. And plus, I really like the taste of fennel. And of course, I did core the fennel before I started cutting it, and I took the outermost section off because it was discolored, so I didn't want to add that. Next, we're going to go ahead and dice up our onion. Now that I have all of my veggies cut up, and I had previously cut up some green beans, because as you know, if you've been watching this channel, I'm not a big pea person, so I'm going to be adding my fresh green beans in with my other vegetables. It all goes in at the same time, so there's no need to use multiple bowls. It all goes into the one bowl. Now, if you were going to use frozen peas as an example, those would not go in at this point. They would go in later. So now, over medium-high heat, I'm going to be adding in my olive oil. I'm going to let that heat up a little bit, and then we're going to be adding in our lamb. Now, once you put this in, make sure that you get it and smash it down, because you want maximum contact with your pan, because you want to get develop some really nice color. This helps with the flavor of your shepherd's pie. Time, our 30 minutes on our potatoes has elapsed, so now I want to check. Yes, that goes in really nice and easy. So our potatoes are done. Now, how you mash your potatoes is up to you. I like my little manual potato masher, but you could use a ricer. You can run it through a chinois. 100% up to you. Now we want to add in our butter, our cream, our sour cream, some freshly grated Parmesan cheese, saving a little bit for later, and add in some salt. I think you need to have, a decent amount of salt. Everything a stir. Looks fantastic. However, it looks wonderful, but we want to give it a taste. Make sure that we have enough salt in there. That is absolutely perfect. Now that we've tasted it and it's absolutely fantastic, we're going to go ahead and add in our 3 egg yolks. And then that way, this helps to create that nice crust on the top when we put this on top of our shepherd's pie. So we want to mix this in, because remember, we already have a well-seasoned, wonderful mashed potato. And then once we're done, we're just going to set this aside. So we can see we have some nice browning in our pan, that's flavor. Next, we're going to add in all of our vegetables. Now, I have included the garlic that I also diced up. So all of the vegetables, including the garlic, are going in now. The only thing that's not going in right now is the thyme. That's going to go in later. We're going to get these, and we're going to cook this for about 3 to 4 minutes. We want them to start getting soft and release their juices. Go ahead and add in some salt. I think it needs a little bit more. There. Give everything a good stir. Now we're going to deglaze our pan with our red wine. Let's get in there and scrape up the bottom. Make sure we get all of that fond into our dish. Now that I've incorporated our wine and scraped up our fond, I'm going to add in our tomato paste, our better than bouillon, our Worcestershire, and our black pepper. Give it a nice stir. Granted, there's a lot going in here. However, remember, this is all flavor. We're really flavoring up our lamb and our veggies to make sure that we have an absolutely amazing shepherd's pie. And remember, we already did our mashed potatoes with the sour cream and the butter, Parmesan, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. We don't want to disappoint our mashed potatoes with a bland. Now that most of our wine has been absorbed, I'm going to go ahead and add in our thyme and our flour. The flour is going to help tighten this up so that you don't end up with a soggy center, because if it's like super moist and soggy, that will ruin your mashed potatoes. Let this cook a little bit. Want it to kind of glaze over again, get a little bit more fond on the bottom that we had scraped up earlier with the red wine. I'm going to allow it to create a little bit more fond again before we add in our last ingredient. Now we're going to add in our beef stock, and we want to bring this up to a simmer. Once it's at a simmer, we're going to cover it, well, lid askew, and we're going to allow it to cook until our sauce is reduced by half and our vegetables are tender. At a simmer, I'm going to go ahead and put that lid on askew, and we're going to drop our temperature to medium low. And the reason we're dropping our temperature to medium low is we don't want it to burn. The flour that we've added can make it tighten up and kind of hold on to the pot a little bit. So we just have to be mindful of that. So we're going to drop our temperature. Now you want to go ahead and check to make sure that your seasoning is good in your shepherd's pie. So get you a spoon. Want to make sure that you have enough salt and that you have intensity of flavor as well. That's really good. Now we're going to add in our parsley. Mind you, the heat is off. I'm going to add in our parsley, give it a stir. Now, if you were using frozen peas, you would add those now. The addition of the frozen peas would occur now, and you would stir them to allow them to melt prior to putting them into your 9x13 pan. And it's a deep 9x13 pan. Put it into a single layer, and we want to push down. Now we have our potatoes. Want to put those on top. Oops. And try not to make a mess. Go ahead and smooth out the top as best you can. And then you can go ahead and try to give it a little bit of height with your spatula. So this way you can have a little bit of variation with your browning. Get this, put it onto our pan. And the reason we want to put it onto a pan is just in case we have some overflow. It doesn't get all in your oven. And then now, remember that Parmesan cheese that I said we would come back to? We are going to sprinkle it on the top. Now we're going to put it into our preheated oven. Remember, 425 or 220C for 25 minutes. So after my time elapsed, I increased the temperature in my oven to broil, and then I put it on the top rack so it can finish browning. And doesn't that look amazing? So now we will put this onto our counter or onto our stove, and we're going to let this sit for about 25 minutes because we want this to cool off. Otherwise it's just going to be way too warm. I really like how that turned out. Now, it can be a little bit juicy. Preferably, I like it to have a little bit less gravy. However, it is what it is, and I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. We're going to let this sit. Putting my timer on for 25 minutes. We're going to allow this to sit for 25 minutes. Number one, it's going to tighten up, and number two, it's going to make it to where you can cut it and eat it and not burn your mouth off. We have our finished shepherd's pie. Let's see how it looks. Look at that.
Remember, your kitchen is your passport to the world, allowing you to explore diverse cultures and cuisines right from home as you explore new flavors and techniques. And as always, bon appetit.